Good morning and welcome to Daybreak Benue. My name is Mercy.
I'm Steven Abba. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Steven.
Good morning, Mercy.
Yeah, it's actually lovely weather out today.
Yeah.
And I bet now endeavor to come up with your raincoats and umbrellas just in case it rains heavily out there. But let's talk about infrastructure development in Benue State. Benue
First,
State.
is that supposed to be like
You got that one right. Yes, it is. Benue is recording an unprecedented level of infrastructural development, what we call massive turnaround infrastructure here in the state, not just with street lights that are from savannah to high level, to the point of that underpass there at night. Looks like broad daylight, and let's not even go there with street lights. We'll talk about the roads constructions that are equally ongoing at the same time from different streets here in Makurdi, and not just Makurdi, other local governments as well, an extension of them. But then while that is happening, there have been drainage systems being built, constructed along the line to ensure that the issue of flood is being tackled. So today, this morning, before we usher in our guests to move and talk about the topic, the burning issue for the day, it's important to talk about how people are making good use of these drainage systems, how they are properly, because some are now seeing that as an avenue to move their refuse dump inside, or especially when it's raining. They see that as a golden opportunity to sweep their refuse dump in the gutters, hoping that the breeze or the rain will just sweep them away. Now the problem is, to which destination is it going to sweep it away? Definitely to another point.
I think concerning that, there should be a legislation. In fact, the acts that were released earlier, I think that should be last month. That should be part of it. I can't remember every of the items, but then we need to tackle the issue of refuse. We need to manage our refuse, because they create a lot of menace in our society. It's very important to note that right now, for me, Makurdi Metropolis is being given a city status, because I've always said Makurdi is a big town. or was a big town now, because there are indices that show that this is a city. A city is a conglomeration of many towns. That's what makes a city. So now we are talking about underpass. We're talking about first-class drainage system. We're talking about roads being linked with one another. We're also talking about the street lights. This is or are giving the city, Makurdi metropolis, a city status. And with that, the mentality of the people also changed. Because there was this time that you think Makurdi was rural. So you begin to see certain acts, attitudes, certain things that you're not supposed to see. But now, it will even encourage investors to come to this place. And by the time investors arrive here, you discover that employment that we are talking about, that government should provide, individuals begin to provide such employment, and this will take the burden off the government. So the call here is that people should use this infrastructure that the government has provided. It is our own, and we are supposed to protect it. We are supposed to make it conducive for others. And like I've always said, these roads, these drainages are not for just us. Even the children are not yet born.
Yeah.
They're supposed to use it.
I mean, if you even look at, the quality of the roads, those are roads that obviously, even not coming from the professional angle, from a layman, you can see that definitely the thickness and everything. Yeah. Those are roads that will stand the test of time, and it's important that we take good care of these roads. We do not burn tires or destroy some of government infrastructures when we feel aggrieved or in the process of protest or trying to make a statement. Is very important, because we saw massive destruction of government properties as well as that of private resident properties in Ukum local government, in Zakibia.
Yeah, I ask that question. Why do we do that? Why do we do that?
To gain attention, to get the government's attention. But then we forget that in the long run, now these are taxpayers' money. This is actually your money that was made in used directly or indirectly in constructing some of these things. Now when you destroy them, think that you want to get back at the government for failing to or neglecting its duties, or failing you as an individual, as a citizen. You're actually hurting yourself. You're setting yourself on fire, expecting not to get burned in the process.
Now you see, when we were younger, that was in the high institution, we staged this protest. It was a riot, and the school was shut down. So when we came back, they were asking us to pay readmission fee. The readmission fee was used to replace all those things we destroyed. So at the end of the day, we're still the persons that paid for what we destroyed.
Yeah.
So, and this is how government operates. By the time they raise your tax, maybe they raise all the tax of all civil servants maybe by just 15 naira, you'll be able to arrive or something. So at the end of the day, you destroy your own property and you still have to replace them.
Yeah, it's very important.
It's very important that we
still at the end of the day, government is there for the people, and the people are all parts and parcel of government, and everything that is being done is for the future, not just present enjoyment, but for even for future good of urban generation. Which is why it's very important to clamor, advocate for people-oriented government. That will be our focus this morning, where we're going to have our guest, Paul Uga, a public affairs analyst, for a conversation shortly after this break. This is Daybreak Benue, live from Benue Television. Stay with us.
Welcome to the exciting world of Benue Television, where we give you an exclusive ride into the world of news, current affairs, and entertainment. Ready for a first stop? Ride with me. For Benue Television.
Our news and flagship program, Daybreak Benue, keeps you informed on events and happenings around the nation and words.
We engage our guests on hot topics and beam searchlight on shady stories.
With millions of people watching Benue TV worldwide, we ensure that we bring you news that is accurate, timely, and dependable.
Our programs are entertaining and educative with high quality audio, leaving you with an amazing viewing experience.
Benue TV, a new dimension in broadcasting.
Welcome back to Daybreak Benue. We are going to have a conversation focusing on advocacy or climb of a poor-oriented government. And then we have our guest there for a conversation. It's very important that we're having this conversation at this crucial time now, because it appears as though it's now becoming a question of what is actually right, what is actually good governance, what is actually should be dividends of democracy. Is it just sharing funds or carrying out massive infrastructure development, or just ensuring that the people's welfare are paramount? All of this is going to be form part of the conversation that we're going to have. We'll recall that sometime in May, when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came on board, what he pledged was actually people's participation in government that would guarantee a people-oriented. Now, that has the people seen so far. It's over a year in office so far, and government across all levels. How well have the people been carried along in this regard? Joining us for a conversation this morning, we have with us Paul. Okay, he is a public affairs analyst. You're most welcome to the briefing this morning.
Thank you very much.
Alright, so once you hear this people-oriented governance in Nigeria, what first comes to your mind?
It's government that come up with programs that touch life, that carries people along. Governments that take the welfare of the public serious. That is what comes to my mind.
And so far from what you have seen, you have lived quite a very long time in Nigeria, but experienced different governments at different levels. Has there ever been a point in time where people have been carried along?
Where the government was oriented.
Yeah.
Well, looking back, the times that government do things that touch the populace, that people are being carried along. Yes, we cannot rule that out. If you look backward, there are times that government do that.
Okay, as far as this present administration is concerned, would you say this administration is fully rated in terms of its policy?
Well, there are programs they have brought on board based on their own assessment, trying to reach out to people, but so far it is not producing the desired result. Because when this administration came on board, they have distributed some items to the public and even fund. But so far, if you go to the streets, you have not seen much impact on what they have done, because the peoples are hungry.
Okay, now let's just digress a little. Personally, I say personally,
Yes.
I don't believe in handouts. You don't give people palliatives, you give them little fund, and you think you've alleviated their suffering. I think what Nigerians are looking for is a permanent solution to their problem, because there's something they call it's poverty that is not consistent. Today you have 100,000, next tomorrow you don't have 2,000 naira. Another, maybe after 2 weeks you have 150,000. After 3 weeks you can't even boast of 10,000 naira. So you have this up and down sort of poverty. So there's no solution. And I always feel, there's a way I feel when I think the populists are also making excuses for government's failing. So, do you think giving palliatives and handouts is actually a problem that the government is trying to solve? Does that show that there are people who think?
Not at all. Even if you carry out, if you take the whole money in the country and decide to distribute it to the people in this country, you will discover that the impact will not still be felt. And what is needed to be done is to do things that will touch the masses. If good policies are put in place, like good governance, like things coming up with programs that will enhance the people, coming up with a subsidy of some certain goods or food items, most especially, or like this subsidy on petrol that have been taken away, that has been the thing that the masses have been benefiting from. And after removing the subsidy on oil, the government have been making effort, dishing out money, doing this and that, and it's not producing the desired results.
Okay, so I'll still ask the question I asked. Looking at this administration, is this administration a people-oriented government? It's very important that you answer this.
So far, if you go to streets and you ask, majority will tell you it is not. Because for one to assess a particular administration is based on what the masses, the feeling of the masses, not just individual in the country. If you go around to the street, you have the feeling of the masses. And from there, you'll be able to assess that, yes, this administration so far, a lot of people have committed suicide as a result of living standard in this country presently. Yeah. And a lot of people are crying. And with that, how can one say that...
they just begged the young man to climb down the mast so that he wanted to commit suicide. And they begged him to come down. So you see, people are not happy. In as much as that question has not been given a stamp yet, we will come back to it later.
What is actually good governance?
Okay, when you talk of good governance, it's when government come up with policies that is having direct bearing on the people. Like now, when the government start to do massive road construction, when government come up with policies that have direct bearing on the masses, when you talk of direct bearing on the masses, like when people are suffering and the quick action is given to the suffering of the masses. Let me give you an example, just like in Benue here, this rain that is setting, we witnessed flood. A lot of persons, like in Ide, their houses were flooded, and journalists were there portraying it to the outside world and even within. And within a short time, the governor intervened that road should be dualized, and people are walking there. And when they started that work, immediately the water that was over, the houses that were overwhelmed with water, the water just moved away, and now the people are enjoying and jubilating. So that is the kind of good governance. When you talk of good governance, the government have to listen to the masses. What you are doing, the policy you are dishing out to the people, is it bringing out the desired result? This is the aspect that the government have to look to. But if government is not sensitive to the plight of the masses, I can say that is not a good governance. Good governance, you are sensitive to the people that you are governing, you are doing things that is touching their lives.
Does the masses really know what they actually want? Because I see a divide from where I'm sitting. I see where what others term as good governance, others condemn it in totality simply because probably aids are not reaching out to them like other past administrations. So for them, they would rather prefer the administration where they had lots of money in their pockets, or the contracts were given to them and they had take homes. They will applaud that and give a thumbs up to that one as a good governance. But then one where nothing is actually oiling or greasing their palm, they will classify that one as bad government. So do the people actually know what they want and they speak collectively with one voice?
Mercy, you took that question from my mouth. Just to add to it, are the people aware of the concept of people-oriented government?
If you go to streets, I don't need to tell you this, but if you go to streets, you will discover that people are aware of that. You know, if you put the people together, the percentage that are not happy about what is happening, about good governance, they are very few. majority, when there is good governance and things is touching their lives, there is no amount of money that you share that will reach out to the populace. It's just only few individuals if you decide to share money. But if you do projects, do things that touch the masses, it will have wider spread. And for that, people will realize that yes, this is a good government that is touching their lives. I think people are appreciating. When there is good governance, people are appreciating.
I did a sample. I just did an analysis. I took social media platforms. I will have good number of criticism against, because you alluded that this current administration certain projects that they're doing are oriented, and I found a good number of criticizing such projects and saying that they were not called for at a time like this. People are actually hungry. People rather eat.
Yes, why people some are complaining is that well, if you look at the state level here, the governor is in charge of governance, and the fact that the governor is doing things is not the president, and the economic hardship is not created by the governor, and now the impact that the governor is playing on his own part is the regular payment of salaries, gratuities, and construction of roads and other things that is touching the masses. Okay, like the instance of street lights, those that were not expecting it before. If you go to, last time I went out in the night, I have to talk to a lot of people, and they are very appreciative of what is happening. That the state capital is being transformed. That is now looking like a real city that is supposed to be. So for that, if you not there is nothing that you do in this world that you will not have people that will criticize you. At times, through the criticism, you pick out something that will help you. Because even an angels will come and rule in a country, people will still criticize. But if you put the percentage of those that are criticizing and those that are applauding a particular government based on the good things that government is doing, you discover that those that are criticizing will be a few number.
Okay, there is actually, a circular or a flyer making round social media platforms, and not just that, people are beginning to film conversations around these things. Nigeria had experienced the NSAS protest, and many wished or hoped that after the outcome of that NSAS protest, there would never be a need for such a massive protest. But here we have the End Bad Government in Nigeria 2024 slated for 1st to 10th of August, right? 10 days of rage, we are not slaves is the theme. Nationwide protests, no tribe, no religion, no region, no religion. And here are the demands that are being pointed out or highlighted on this End Bad Government in Nigeria. It says that end subsidy scam and reverse fuel price to below 300 naira per litre is the first demand itemized on that list. Bring tertiary education fees back to their previous rates by reversing subsidies. And then this one says restore electricity tariffs to affordable levels for the public. Return import duties to their previous rates. Publicly disclose and reduce the salaries and allowances of the senators, House of Representatives members, and the Speaker. Establish an emergency fund to support SMEs. Make INEC independent of the executive branch with transparent processes for appointing its chairman. Enact a law mandating INEC to electronically transmit live electoral results. Reopen national borders. Reform EFCC. Declare a state of emergency on inflation. Reform the judiciary. 12 demands itemized on this End Bad Government in Nigeria 2024 nationwide protest. We are in July. August is just by the corner. Do you think because these demands are quite different from what we had during the NSAS. NSAS started with end police brutality that later progressed into other items and making other demands. But here we have all of these items geared towards ending bad government in Nigeria. First, I'll ask, do we even have bad government in Nigeria? Before we even talk about some of these items, if they are called for.
Well, if you talk of bad governments in Nigeria, or if you talk of bad governance, well, what are the factors that associate with bad governance? Do we have that now? If you start to look, if you start to assess, you'll be able to arrive at the answer.
Alright, so looking at these items here now, let's take them one after another. This subsidy scam, that they should end subsidy scam and reverse fuel price to below 300 per litre. Do you think that's attainable? Recall one of the major reasons why the fuel subsidy had to be removed in the first place. And many Nigerians actually applauded that bold decision that yes, it was called for, else Nigeria would run into crisis eventually if they don't remove this fuel subsidy. So it was a good decision, but here they are now calling for to end the subsidy scam and reverse the fuel price below 300 per litre. What's your take on that one?
Well, on the issue of removal of subsidy on the petrol, it has been the genesis of this problem we are encountering in the country. At the beginning, we thought that when that is done, it will improve the system. But we have discovered even within a year, we have not seen the result, the positive result from that. I know when policies is when the government come up with a policy and experiment, if it is not yielding the result, if a good person, you have to assess the policy that you come up with. Well, I want to do this, or I'm starting this, and then at the end of the day, the result is not forthcoming. There is nothing wrong in dropping the idea.
But the idea itself is a good one. It was the implementation of the removal of fuel subsidy that got faulty along the line, where there was no more transparency or accountability in the funds that was recovered from that subsidy removal and geared towards other ministries or agencies that was meant to cushion the impact on the removal of that fuel subsidy. So shouldn't Nigerians actually be clamoring for more transparency, more accountability in terms of handling of removal of fuel subsidy, rather than calling for a reverse? Because, mind you, lots of analysts have waded into this, especially economists, to say that yes, removal of fuel subsidy is the way to go for Nigeria.
Well, it depends on the kind of people that will have the political will that will have in the system. That has been the problem. And starting this policy, suppose that was what I said earlier, that initially we thought that it would work well, and everybody clap hand for when he announced that at the beginning. But at the end of it, we are not seeing the result, and several efforts to remedy the situation, to cushion the effect of subsidy removal on petrol, has not been yielding that desired result. And if you are carrying out a policy, or you are carrying out a kind of things, and it's not bringing out the result that you think that will be there, I think there is nothing wrong in reverting it, reverting to the former status.
We've had a series of governments that have been very unfair to Nigerians. So, how important is people, or is people participation? How will people participation encourage people-oriented policies from government? Because it is now looking as if whatever our governments give us, we just accept them. When the president said fuel subsidy gone, people clapped, but most people did not understand the implication of that. And when the dollar was floated, some economists will tell you it is the right thing, others will say. So a point comes, Nigerians are not even sure of what they need. So I'll just like your government because you're my friend, regardless of what you do. Or I'll like her administration because she's my friend. So this is the point where we are. How important is people participation in governance will bring up endanger people-oriented governance? Because if you don't participate as a people, your government may not even need for example, in the villages, in the rural areas, do you know the average person living in our villages don't even know that the government owes them something? They don't feel part of Nigeria. They don't have good roads. They don't have potable water, they don't have power, they don't even have good schools. It's only when they farm, bring the food to the city, we even underprice their food. We underprice their produce. They go back and they feed on whatever that. So a point comes, they detach themselves from whatever happened in Nigeria. We need to know how important is people participation that will encourage the stopping water from water.
Well, in Nigeria, there are a lot of activists advising government, speaking up boldly on things that are not working in the system. But at times, some are there to becloud the face of our leaders. Maybe those that will talk at the end of the day, they will tag them as enemies of the government or as coming from the opposition party, and maybe coming from not being in the same religions and all that, and they use that to deceive, and they use that not to see the clear picture of what is happening. You know, people participating in governance is very, very essential, and even in Nigeria, the people are still participating. If you read newspaper, if you listen to televisions and all that, a lot are crying up, a lot of persons are crying up. Even these issues of protest that people are nursing, the idea that they are nursing, are planning to come up in August. I'm praying that that should not happen, and government have to be sensitive to do the needful so that that will not happen, because in a situation where majority are hungry, and when such opportunity is given, one cannot say what will happen at the end of the day. So I pray that government should be sensitive and do the needful so that that will not happen. We saw what happened in Kenya and in other countries, and even as a result of that, I think one president decided to cut the allowances of those governors and even the cost of governance. I think our government have to be sensitive to do things without being told, instead of waiting until they get to a situation where it will be very difficult to be handled.
Okay, Paul, okay, we're due for a break now. We'll return at Daybreak Benue, but remember, you know, be part of Daybreak Benue by streaming a platform. Drop your comments, your questions, and I believe our guests will now time to spend more of these leaders. This morning is Paul Uga, public affair and analyst, and we're having a conversation on advocating people-oriented governance in Nigeria. And so far so good, we went as far as itemizing some of the demands for the end bad government in Nigeria 2024 that is slated between 1st to 10th of August this year. And then here we mentioned some of the demands, and the first was the reversing back to fuel subsidy and making petroleum to go as low as 300 naira per litre, or at least, because we have had sometime in this country where it was even below 300 naira. But let's talk briefly about this tertiary education fee back to their previous rates by reversing subsidies. Let's just get your take on that, on this particular demand that is the second on the list, next to reversing back to fuel subsidy.
Well,
but then, just sorry to butt in, still before I even wrap it up on this removal of fuel subsidy, because I'm seeing this demand here making it toughly, because many Nigerians are now having these impressions that once they reverse back to the fuel subsidy, they reverse that decision, then economically everything will fall in place. But then how long will that last before Nigeria find itself into a bigger problem, because it can no longer sustain this? We have to be looking at long-lasting solutions to our problems, and not just short terms and short fixes and quick fixes here and there. I hope Nigeria won't get to a point where the old normal will become the new again. And because all that back and forth makes us as a nation looks like quite unsettled, not really knowing what we actually want as a people. When 1 minute we're back to the old national anthem, the other minute we're like, ah, no, that one is not really working, let's come back to this other one, other indecisiveness. But let's talk about this rates in tertiary institutions though.
The rate in tertiary institutions, you look at the life now, life is hard. The cost of living is hard on parents, on guardians, and again, then the tuition fee increased. If you put all together, many parents are not finding it easy, and as a result of the high cost of living standard in the country, I think that is an issue. For people clamoring that it should be reduced, because there are peasant farmers that are sponsoring their children in the university. If you have to look at it, you don't just look at it from those that have. Look at those that don't have, because education is a right. Once you give birth to children, it is your duty as a parents to train them in school. And then when the tuition fee is so high and you cannot afford it, it is something that give a kind of sleepless night to parents and guardians.
So you agree that the subsidies, the tertiary institution fees should be reversed the way messages later. These 12 items, they are reeling out. By the time every government or a particular government is able to do that, the implication is that your policies are people oriented, because everything mentioned there is about the people. It's about the people. So I want to ask you a question. The question is, why is our government or governments not people oriented? There must be a reason, there must be an origin, there must be something could have gone wrong somewhere before your government will come in, and the first thing the political actors think about is themselves, and they put policies that suit themselves. Then maybe if it's not suiting very well, they will change it quickly, but at the end of the day, the people are still at the receiving end. Why is our government like that?
Well, it depends on the structure of governance and the government, because at times when some get into that positions, everything virtually is being provided by government. Even now that people are crying, some will say, life is not hard, things are cheap, because most of the things are being provided by the government. They don't go to market, they don't buy things with their money, and for them, life is easy. Why are people crying? Why are people saying life is difficult? We take a serious government, a serious leader, to go out to detach himself, to go out to see things by himself, go out or leave all the people that have surrounded you, giving you fake information that all is well. Go out and see things by yourself. By the time they go out and see things, they will discover the reality. And it's because they have make it in such a way that everything is provided to them by government. Even all these demands, if they come up with it and they decide to cut down the cost of governance, the things can still work. Because if you see the allowances of those in our national assemblies, you see their fringe benefit, you see that of our leaders, and at the end of the day, this is where we have problems. But even if they make it unattractive, detach some of those benefits, you will discover that at times they will start begging somebody to say, please go and represent us.
In other words, are you saying the people are paying the price for those that they thought to be more comfortable? Because we're seeing where fuel subsidy was removed and it's a poor man out there, so he's not paying the ultimate price. And we're seeing an increase in electricity tariff, which again is the third item on that demand list, that they should restore electricity tariffs to affordable levels for the public.
Yes, that is what is my take, because this subsidy removal is not having much impact on the public. The way that it was planned initially, we are not seeing it that way. So that is why people are now saying, no, this is not working, and since it's not working, we should go back.
Okay, now
the electricity tariff, yeah.
Okay, this list made by End Bad Government in 2024, Nigeria 2024, With the body language of this administration, do you think this is possible? Can their demands be met? Demand that will be favorable to all Nigerians now. Do you think with this body language that we have from this administration, can this demand be met?
Well, you talk of people participating in government and all that. Nowadays, the voices of the people that are coming up. Sensitive government listen to the people. So I think as a government, they have to listen to people. There have been an issue of this minimum wage. The president have called the labor to still interact with them. So they are also having feelers from people what is happening. I think any government that don't want to be crumbled must have to listen to people.
So is this related to Kenya? Is it Kenya that gave birth to this?
Have you forgotten of Arab Spring where people protest and all this and that? It has happened before. This is not the first time.
Yes.
If you start to look back into the history, there are times that people have rise against governments. It has happened elsewhere, even before Kenya. But that of Kenya is the most recent one. And then I think government have to act quickly to put an end to such things so that we won't witness it. Because if you saw what happened during the NSAS, and then people were not so feeling hardship as it is now.
Yes, you are correct.
Who gets to advocate this people-oriented government? Who gets to make any demands? Who gets to get government, to comply, to act accordingly?
We have leaders at various levels of governance. We have the president there on top who take decisions for the country. We have the governors. We have our representative, diverse leaders at different stages of government. I think, but the one at the helm of the affair is the president. If the president listen to some of these issues and decide to come up and say, well, we are going to cut the cost of governance, we are going to reduce on certain allowances of some certain officers, and when that is done, and then come up with transparency, doing things in the right way, and once they decide to do that, and things will fall in place.
Okay, now that those things are not happening, except in few states that the governors are doing their best to meet the demands of the people, because the governor is the one that has the cane, he also is the one that has the carrot. At the presidential level, is still the same thing. So now, these opportunities have been given to them to change the lives of Nigerians, and they are not doing it. So who will be responsible for enforcing that? Because there must be a form of enforcement. There must be a form of, if you don't do this, this is what we're going to do. If you don't do this, we think you should do this. There must be a level of enforcement. Because I used to tell people that the issue we have in this part of the world, and when I say this part of the world is Africa, is that our leaders or our political managers are not afraid of people. It is only where governments are afraid of what these people can do or what they know that they do the right thing. And a point comes, it becomes a system that you don't need to be told to know that this place needs good food. You don't need to be told that this place needs school. But a situation where you need to be told everything that you're supposed to do as a leader, then there's a problem. So who enforces that? And that is a question Messi is trying to ask.
All right, we have our lawmakers who make law for the countries, and they are there to check the executive in their actions and all that. But along the way they work at times do not bring out the desired result, but at times they hold them accountable, and the journalists are there also to hold the government accountable to do the needful. But when all this fail, that is when it gives rise to protests and all that.
Okay. All right. We are still on that. One of the in economics or generally in general living, when you make people's life difficult, people tend to bend backwards to do things. Their consciences will be eroded. Their morality will be affected. Because one, there's no money to live the life they want to live. They can't pursue happiness. So the question now is, if you deprive these people of the basics of life, do you think they will do their jobs accurately, with morality and professionalism and ethics. You spoke about the journalist. Will the journalist really write against the government? Of course, few are writing. Few that still have an altar of conscience with them and still want to bring professionalism to bear. Now, if these persons have been deprived of the good means to life, or the means to good life rather, do you think they will do what their profession is demanding of them? So you will hear in journalism, you heard about brown envelopes. Brown envelopes shouldn't have been an issue if everything is alright. In fact, we've been told that in one of these mainstream media, name will tell that if it is discovered that you collected anything from anybody, you'll be sacked. You understand? So it's a system, it's a policy, and it's a policy that is pursued to the latter. Of course, it's not in Nigeria. And there was a story that somebody from that same organization went to a country. The president of that country gave her a bag of money. She refused the first time to collect it. When she reached the airport, she dropped the bag in a trash can, and she left. So these are places, these are countries where the professionalism is held at a very high place. It is placed on a very high pedestal. In Nigeria, do you think the journalists will do the same? Looking at what is on ground.
If the writing is done in any part of the world, people are bound to change. Change is possible in any sector. You know, when you talk of journalists, when you talk of even those in government as a result of hardship, because maybe whatever they are taking cannot afford them to live comfortably, it gives rooms to corruptions. That is why we have a lot of corruption issues in governments and even among the journalists. You will discover even some media houses, they don't pay their staff. They will just give you ID card, identity card, and then say, this is your meal ticket. Go to the field. And what do you expect such person? He lives on what he earns from whatever things that he or she does. And because such persons are not paid, they are prone to corruptions and all that. The media house that you cited as an example, you discover that they pay them very well. And that is why they instill that discipline. Don't collect anything from anybody. And as a result of that, they come up with facts. They don't bend facts to favor somebody to get any benefit, financial benefit, or any other whatever benefit from such a person. So even in our system here, if the government start to do the right thing, you see people falling in. There are states that the governor is doing well, and you see the citizen following, acting well, based on the body language of the leader.
Can Nigeria afford a nationwide protest right now as we speak?
And that is what I said earlier, that I pray that the government, our leaders, the president, should act quickly not to subject the country to any wide protest, because now people are hungry, people are angry, people are hungry, and as a result of that, any opportunity, it will be very difficult to control, and we don't pray for that. I think the government have to listen to the people. Our president have to listen to the voice, and those that are with him have to guide him right, so that the rightful thing will be done, not to give room to protest. We don't want protest at this stage.
In a democratically elected government, yes, protest is a necessary means, where people get to air their grievances, call attention of the government. But looking at the track record of Nigeria's protests so far, do you think that approach has been working for Nigerians, this protest? And I'm recalling even what happened with the NSAS protest. Lives were lost, and up to date, people, some of those lives, no justice was served to them. And up till now, not everyone can categorically come and give you an account of that report of the NSAS protest, what really transpired at that toll gate there. Whether the government opened fire on the government did not open fire on the people, but lives were lost. Young people lost their lives, and the protest ended somehow, and yet some of the demands made because of that protest were not implemented. So life now continues, business as usual again. but then people were used as collateral damage. Can Nigeria afford another protest? Is protest even working for Nigeria?
Well, protests, if you look at the history of Nigeria, when student unions were very agile and active, even during the military era, student unions hold the government accountable through protests. And protests, it depends. But to give example, what happened in Ukun local government just of recent, when people went out protesting, you saw how it turned out to be something else. A lot of people's property were destroyed, government facilities were destroyed. That is why I said at the moment people are hungry and angry. Any small opportunity, they will capitalize on it and turn it to something else. Peaceful protests we have witnessed, we have seen in some countries whereby they will protest even up to a week or 2 weeks, and at times government will listen to them. But in a situation whereby an angry person, you are allowing to protest, when he starts to vent his anger on government, vent his anger on the people, it will be difficult to control. So at the moment, I don't call for protest, but I appeal to the government, to the federal government, to do the needful, to listen to the voice of the people. Now people are crying out. This is of their own view. And people are crying out that this and that should be done. Government should look into the needs of the people so that their loans will not be given.
Governments at all levels currently, they are actually looking at the needs of the people. We've had a series of palliatives distributed aimed to cushion effects of more fuel subsidy that come up with certain economic policies aimed at cushioning this effect. But it appears the triple effect is just not getting down to the people it's aimed at. But if you ask them at the top, they are doing everything possible to listen. They are listening to the plight of the people, and they are doing carrying out measures to get to the people. But it's just not working.
That is why I said our leaders need to detach themselves, and even our president need to detach himself to go out and assess things for himself, not just listening to the report. When you at times give out billions of naira or whatever, think of recent is saying he's going to give out 2 trillions of naira share to Nigerians. At the end of the day, he will sit there and whoever that he sent
Welcome back from that break. You're still watching Daybreak Benue. We still have Paul Luka in the studio, public affairs analyst, having a conversation with us on the clam or advocacy for good governance or people-oriented government here in Nigeria. We'll let you land on that one before we proceed. You were about to land.
Yes. What I was saying is that at this moment we don't want any protests. But how can we stop that? It's our leaders. The key is in the hands of our leaders. If they listen to the pulse of the country and they decide to do the needful, start to come up with policy that have direct bearing on the people, then whatever action that is being planned will not come to fruition. And so I'm appealing to our leaders to do things quickly, not to push the country to the wall.
And I guess doing things quickly does not include just distributing money in terms of palliatives, because that hasn't really been working.
Leadership is deeper and stronger than what people think. The average person, when you speak about leadership, thinks about a place he will go aggrandize himself, where he will be taken care of by the people's money or the communities or the organization or association's money, where he will have access to things that he can steal or use to his advantage. When you talk about leadership, these are the things people think about. But leadership is a responsibility. Now, you spoke about this administration at the top trying to access money to share to Nigerians, or I don't really know what that means yet. But then, they are trying to share money. Leadership has to do with strategy. Leadership has to do with planning. Leadership has to do with systems. You create systems so that even when you're away, somebody else will. So, do you think, because this palliative sharing of money and all that, it's not solving the problem? Like Mercy said earlier, even when this money is shared, it doesn't trickle down to the people in the rural areas are not getting it. You organize a meeting of about 200 people in Makudi, and you give them to some money, and you think you've done it. In Makudi alone, we have over 1 million people. Okay, let me just be modest. Maybe we have up to 700,000 people. Makudi alone. You don't know how many people we have in Boko, in Otukbo, Katsina, and the rest of them. So the question is, when this government is sharing money, or when government shares money, does it show planning? Because Nigeria is a very large country in terms of tribes, even in landmass. If you are traveling from Lagos to Maiduguri, it's 23 hours. It's a very big country in terms of size and in terms of people. So Nigeria is not a place you come to do experiment. So do you think governments or this government has plans for Nigeria? Plans that will take us out of this government?
Well, there's no government that will come without plans. I think they have their plans and they have been executing their plans. But the issue is there is for them to assess the impact of their plans, because the plans that they have been executing in terms of giving out palliative rice and other things, and even in terms of finance money has been given. If they sit and then analyze the impact of that and see, is it really improving the lives of Nigerians? As these that have been given out, is it really cushion the effect of subsidy removal on petrol? Those are the things that they have to assess, and they cannot just sit in the office and assess that. It's by going out. That is what you have rightly even said, that the country is large. You cannot just sit in at the headquarters and assess what happened in the remote areas. By the time you send the people out, at the end of the exercise, go out to assess it yourself. Don't just take the report from the people. So they have plans. The government has plans. There is no government that come on board without plans. Okay. But but in my own, this is how they're assessing their plans they are executing.
Okay. Now that we're having a conversation on this advocacy for clamor for people-oriented government, talk to us about the role that masses play in having a government that is not even people-oriented to begin with.
All right. The the populace also have their own problems, and the masses, you know, during the electioneerings, this is where the issues come on board, and a lot of people that are even crime now, some of them are even part of the issue. During the electioneering, you see them money being given out in dollars. They collect that, and at the end of the day, they use the money within short period and put whoever that is there as leaders of at various levels of government. And then, when the result is not coming, and when that person is giving you the money for you to vote for him or to support him to get into some certain offices, by the time you collect that money, you have to bear it in mind that the person have to recoup his money when he get to that office, and that is where the masses are also not getting it right. It have to come to the level whereby the masses have to reject collecting material things from those vying for elective offices, and even rejecting money, rejecting material things, and stand for the right person that they think that yes, this can, if we support this person and he goes or he gets into the office, he will do our bid, he will come up with people-oriented governance and all that. I think I always cite example because we are in Benue. During the past election, the governorship elections, we discovered a lot of people were just singing the name without even collecting anything from the governor. And at the end of the day, he's not doing things that is touching the life of the people. He's going with the masses because the masses do not tax him. They do not collect things from him, and he knows that because the people have the passion, the love for him, and he's now exhibiting that just like paying back. But in a situation whereby the masses soak him dry, collect a lot from him, at the end of the day, he still have to recoup whatever that he has invested. They call it investment in politics. Whatever that he has invested in the politics, and at the end of the day, nothing good will come out.
I see the problem at the foundation here now, even beginning with campaigns.
Yeah.
Because in leadership, you can't give what you don't have. If you're not a visionary leader, you can't come up with visions that will stand the test of time and benefit people directly or indirectly. So I see the role the masses play here now, even putting in governments in place that will, come up with policies that will serve them, that will make them be part and parcel of government and feel or experience the dividends of democracy. How do we now strengthen our system or institutions in such that even if we have a weak leader, but then we should have a strong institutions?
Well, to have strong institutions, even though you have weak leaders, and that is why at times the people come up with protests against uncertain policy that is not touching the lives of the masses and all that. But again, the protest depends in our own, most African setting, mostly in our country here, the way we view protests. There could be peaceful protests that will yield result without causing damage. But at times when such opportunity comes, people will turn it into something else that will affect the government, affect even them themselves at the end of the day. Just like as I cited earlier, the incident that occurred in Ogun local government in Benue State, a lot of government facilities were destroyed, a lot of even individual facilities were destroyed. At the end of the day, who are going to feel this is those people that reside there. It's like they are affecting themselves, thinking that they are attacking the government.
So now, we have gone around the issue of people participation and of course a strong-willed government. Now, the demands Mercy just reeled out about the protests that is going to happen from the 9th of August to 10th, from the 1st of August to the 10th of August. Those demands should be met, could be met, or they may not be met. It takes a strong-willed government to do that. Now let's talk about, they say there is no tribe, no region, no religion. Can you say one or two things about the place of region, tribe, religion in the matter of poorly, policies as far as government-oriented, people-oriented government is concerned? What role do this matter play in us not having a people-oriented government?
Yeah, I think that is even one of the fundamental issues that make us not to have people-oriented government or governance. If you look at issues, when somebody starts to raise a particular issue of good governance, maybe the person is not doing well, they will come up and say, oh, this is a Muslim, this is a Christian that is attacking a Muslim. Maybe because the person at the end of the affair is a Muslim and the person that is raising the issue is a Christian. And then maybe if it comes to issue of, say, this one is an Hausa person attacking a Yoruba man, or this one is a Yoruba man attacking an Hausa man. And even though the person is saying the correct thing, but at the end of the day, they use that to create a kind of a barrier. And because of that, it weakens the people from talking. And at the end of the day, instead of them to pick out the fact from what the person is raising, even though it's not your tribe, it's not your this, look at the issue that the person is raising. Are there fundamental issues? Are there issues that can help the country? Is it issues that, because if you are a leader and you don't want to have anybody to criticize you, you will never succeed.
Now, what is the place of education in this? You know, usually anytime you have crisis, the people that are at the forefront, most times they are not very educated. The people that are going around burning houses, doing this, they are not usually educated. But the person sponsoring whatever they are doing could be a large person in society, somebody that has means, somebody that is vast, someone that has education. What is the place of education in this?
Education play a vital role in a society, in a situation where people are not enlightened. It affects the masses, it affects the people, because when you talk of protests like what they did in local government, is to make your government feel what you are feeling, not by going out destroying things, not by going out destroying things that can even help you. At the moment now, the bank is, even the business has picked up, but the banks in those in the area, they are not still reopened, and then they are facing it now. It's not government, and even some government facility they destroy the egg or whatever. It's then that it will affect directly, and because some that are in the forefront of such are not educated, go out in a way that they're not supposed to go. Because education, once you are those that are enlightened, they do things in a civilized way.
Okay. Because the clamor for people-oriented government is abetting, this protest here, where there is a call to end bad governance in Nigeria, and it's even tagged Sorosuke too, linking it to more of maybe part 2 of what happened with the NSAS protest. How well do you think the NSAS protest was managed, that we should even be having a part 2 of such protests?
Well, the NSAS, to some certain extent, it was well managed. It was they were not out destroying team that time, but the government, they look at it that is going to be a force that is going to overwhelm them, and they decided to use a kind of force to force it, to silence it, and that is what
the project was hijacked, well, and which is what happens in most protests. It becomes hijacked. Then we now have within the protesters people who tend to now destroy government properties, and thereby
linked to
thereby justifying the force that now comes from the government. Because if it is a peaceful protest where people are just marching, government ordinary or in the right senses ought to just provide them security that will accompany them to ensure that no harm comes to them. But if they are going to destroy government properties, then there has to be some level of retaliation from the part of the government to ensure that you get things under control. So there's always an hijack, right, in the protest, and that's where the mismanagement of every protest comes in. And it seems there is a force, I wouldn't want to say from the part of those who will not want, but necessarily from the part of those who will not want that protest to proceed because of the impact it has not just on the economy, not just on the administration, but on the overall running of the system entirely. So what yardstick would I put in place in this end bad government in Nigeria 2024 nationwide protest scheduled to hold, that it will not be hijacked and turned to have Nigerian youth serve as collateral for a message that will not even be implemented at the end of the day?
Well, that is another serious issue, because at the end of the day, the protest they call for is nationwide, and the people that may be behind this issue may not be everywhere to control whatever, because if they start in this state, start in that state, all over the state, they may not be in the various states to control. And at the end of the day, even at some certain level, when issues come like this, at times they can send people to go, not even the real people protesting, send people to start destroying things to justify them to come up to protest in the name of trying to protect government facilities or whatever. So that is another angle to it, and that is why I say the best is government to do the needful, not to allow that to happen, because when it happens, the government will lose, the society will lose, the youth will lose, those involved will lose. At the end of the day, we will not get the desired result. But peaceful protest is allowed in a democratic setting. But at the end of the day, it's not ending that way. That is where we have issue. If not, peaceful protest is something that is part of democratic system.
I've been in Nigeria long enough to experience narratives sometimes being changed, to suit a certain group of people, because they don't want the other part of the world to view them in certain light. But then the harm is just always there. And that is why I'm so concerned about the management of this protest. Is there no other way of making an appeal, of getting the government to respond in a way that Nigerians need them to respond to, other than embarking on a nationwide protest that sadly lives may be lost and no justice will be served at the end of the day? And narrative, sadly, again, may be changed. Just like NSAS.
Well, that's why maybe they have make it public now, that they intend to do that is a kind of maybe sending of grapevine to the government, and through that government...
NSAS went public before the SARS protests began. I mean, there was notifications, and it didn't just begin all at once, cut across the state. A state to pick it up, and another state to join. And then, just like that, the demands equally grew, and it became a force. I mean, all credit goes to NSAS protest. It was actually a force to reckon with, and it did make a statement. However, it just didn't play out the way it will be pleasing, because sacrifices, human lives were sacrificed because of that struggle. We'd rather not have any more people being sacrificed in the course of a struggle. I mean, our heroes already paid the price for the Nigerian call. I mean, it's time to actually now dialogue, negotiate, and enjoy. But speaking of dialogue, I mean, Labour and federal government have been dialoguing for quite some time now on the issue of minimum wage. We're yet to see conclusion of that. But government has actually been talking about minimum wage, but have relegated or left out the electricity tariff, which is also a demand of Labour. So what body language, what does that even imply, that even on the minimum wage they are talking about it, and sometimes it appears they are sweeping it under the carpet, but then they are not even mentioning, sometimes not even mentioning at all that of the electricity tariff, which again is being captured here as one of the demands.
Yes, as you rightly observe, protest is not the only solution to our problem. I think that is why they have come up with these issues and giving the timeline. And by giving the timeline, if you have a government that is sensitive, some of these issues, government can come up with addressing some of the issues raised, and then appeal to people that with time, some of or the rest, others will be given attention. By the time they start seeing people, government reacting to some of the demands, then whatever they have in mind for the protest can be put on hold. That is my own observations and thinking concerning that, and that is why I say government have to react.
I asked earlier that do you think this government had planned before it came? You see, NSAS gave notification before it came about. This particular protest is going to begin on the 1st of August, has given at least over 2 weeks notice. But I saw the notice yesterday. Today is 11th. So it has given over 2 weeks notice. The expectation of Nigerians now is the federal government should begin to call for a roundtable talk. The federal government should begin to say, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. During NSAS, the government pretended as if they didn't know it was going to happen. And probably they underrated the will of the people. So when it happened, it became they couldn't manage it anymore. Now, with this notice, do you see the government coming out to say, okay, you've made your decisions, let's see the leaders, let's talk to you. Of course, they're not going to arrest them because it is their right to protest. Let's come here, let us talk about what is going on. This is what we can do. Do you see this government doing that?
Well, government...
because we've been praying that this protest should be averted.
Yes.
So the government on its part, do you see it, or what should the government do to avert it?
Yes, that is what government should do to avert it. I think the issue of the pending minimum wage. Today, the president has called leaders of labor to meet with them. We are yet to know the outcome of that meeting. And then this pending issue that people have raised is for government also to come up with, even without meeting with the leaders, because calling the leader may not be even be willing to come out because of the fear of being arrested. And then the government start to execute some of these policies. The people who they are all in this country, they will know that yes, the issue that we are raised is being given attention. So if the issues are given attention, whatever plan they have in mind to come up will be put on hold. So the government that is why I say the government have to be sensitive to the issues that is raised, because if something has happened before, you have to use it as a kind of lesson. The answer started like that, and people were thinking that it will not happen. At the end of the day, it happened. It becomes very difficult to manage. So this one now, government have to act quickly, so that whatever that is there, it mustn't be that they have to execute all the points raised at once. But by the time they start to do some of this, address some of these issues raised, I think they are also human beings. Then they will give rooms for them to come up with issue of addressing the rest.
Okay, we're almost out of time now. Well, we turn our attention to the big classifying of stories that are making news. You know, as a way of wrapping up, when you talk about advocating for people-oriented government, in summary, what will you be telling people to be calling for?
Okay.
Because sometimes you give the masses an opportunity to make demands and to totally miss it out.
Yes, to execute people-oriented governance, it doesn't demand that you have to share money to the people. No, money cannot go around the people. Just like in the state here or at the federal level, if the president wants to be over generous and decided to carry all the funds and then share to all Nigerians, at the end of the day, we'll still not get a result. But do things that will touch people, like the issue of electricity tariff that is so high. It's affecting everybody. When that is subsidized or reduced, then it's like you are touching everybody, whereby the money that you want to send cannot reach out to people. But if that is addressed, it reach out to everybody in the country. And then the issue of the high cost of living, if that is addressed, everybody in the country will benefit. Well, that is the best way. To me, that is the best way to go. Not to keep on dishing out money, keep on thinking you are giving out money to address the issue, and at the end of the day, the money do not even get to the rightful people, and at the end of the day, the result is not achieved.
Okay.
So, quickly, how can a government, a government that is people-oriented, how does that affect the economy of the country or the state? Can you
Well,
describe what by the result of good governance as far as people orientation is concerned?
you know, when government is executing people-oriented policies or whatever, affect a lot of issues. Even the economy of such government is also transformed. The people will, even the outside investors will look at that. The state is developing or the country is developing. It will attract more investors to come and do business. So that it will promote a lot of things, and you see the economy will pick up. Individual will start contributing from the private sector to the public, and even the outside investors and all that. It have a lot of impact on this when people-oriented government is put in place or is being played out.
Okay, thank you very much. Advocating people-oriented governance is a conversation that we'll be having with Paul Uga, public affairs analyst in the studio. We really appreciate your time for being with us on Daybreak this morning. And this is where we end this segment of the program. We'll go for a break and we'll return to turn our attention to the papers to find out stories.
Thank you very much.
Stay with us.
Welcome to the exciting world of Benue Television, where we give you an exclusive ride into the world of news, current affairs, and entertainment. Ready for our first stop? Ride with me. Benue Television.
Our news and flagship program, Daybreak Benue, keeps you informed on events and happenings around the nation and the world.
We engage our guests on hot topics and beam searchlight on shady stories.
With millions of people watching Benue TV worldwide, we ensure that we bring you news that is accurate, timely, and dependable.
Our programs are entertaining and educative with high quality audio, leaving you with an amazing viewing experience.
Benue TV, a new dimension in broadcasting.
You're still watching Daybreak Benue live on Benue Television. We are now turning our attention to the papers to find out stories that are making the news. And our first choice of paper this morning is The Nation. It is actually filled with lots and lots of stories. But the lead story here says federal government kicks off a food security emergency plan. The rider, framework ready within 2 weeks. Rice farmers express worries. For details, you need to grab the paper to get more on why rice farmers are expressing worry and how the framework is ready within 2 weeks. Above the masthead, we can't cede our land for agriculture, says Steve Communities, page 5. If you turn your attention to page 4, FEC directs SGF to implement varsity lectures removal from IPPIS. This is actually going to be a cheerful news for the lecturers. I mean, they've been clamoring for this. So I guess this is one of the responses to some of the demands. We'll see how far it goes, because a lot of there's been a lot of tension from the educational sector, you know, from the political scenes, security. So yes, it'd be nice to start seeing news where there have been some level of response to some of the clamor or demands made from the people. And then if we come down to the bottom of the paper, ex-power minister Maman faces 33 billion naira fraud charge. And then what we would like to see here is how this actually pans out at the end of the day, the outcome.
It has always been the outcomes.
Your seats remain vacant. Fubara tells a May with 24 others. And then if you flip over the Nation, story that you find here, authorities stealing soft justice, is what you're going to find. Let's move on to another paper.
Next paper of choice is Vanguard. The leading story here says, we will regulate price of imported foodstuffs. FG says food prices to crash in 180 days. That's about 6 months, Messi. We can't see precedent to advise him on food crisis. Undume laments even ministers cannot see him. Notes Nigerians like Sudanese dying of hunger. Insists children in Northwest malnourished. Above the masthead. End SARS protests. ECOWAS court finds FG guilty of rights violations. That story is on page 4. Minimum wage. Tinubu meets organized labor today. You find that story on page 4. An EFCC witness admits Emefiele's wife not beneficiary of CBN contracts. That would be an interesting story, and the story is on page 8. Below the pictorial, conflicting court orders. CJN vows to deal with errant judges. Basic education. Nigeria needs 194,876 more teachers. That story is on page 9. 1,107,854 classrooms. UBEC is saying that. Then we have the cartoon here, Mercy, before you. Mr. and Mrs.
Yes.
The husband said, some of my friends have the shape of bodyguards. They give credit to their wives' cookings. Then the woman answered, you don't need to look like bodyguards. Try and make good money. You will hire as many as you want. I think he's trying to blame his wife's cooking for his size.
How smart of her. Let's turn our attention to Guardian. It seems there are lots and lots of decision making to be happening today. If you look at this paper, because let's begin with the lead story here. It says, abuse, violation of urban planning laws breed homelessness, slums, page 6. And that's the lead story. And here we have pictorial of house demolitions. And in Enugu alone, it has witnessed property demolitions worth 100 billion naira in the last 1.5 years. We're constantly hearing of Lagos demolitions, and that's probably because of lack of proper urban planning and then abuse of laws that sometimes they'll just have to bring them down when you now have a responsible government that demands that the right thing be carried out, not ones that gives excuse or allowances for boycotting laws because of the implication of having some of these structures erected where they ought not to be. But as when I talk about, there seems to be lots of decision making happening today. Page 4 of The Guardian says, hashtag EndSARS, ECOWAS court finds federal government guilty. You had to re-echo that with me. But why do people jubilate when government is found wanting? People are part of government.
Want the right thing done, that's all.
But sometimes they make it appear as though a government is on the other end. They are on the other end.
That's right.
If a government fails, you failed. You put in that government in place. And I think it's high time we even start advocating more or talking more about inclusivity for people to feel the need that or understand how they are parts and parcel of government. Because I feel there is a gap, there's a breach. They don't feel they are parts of it, right? And the implication of not being parts of it is if it fails, you jubilate instead of mourning.
Well, I think this is a discussion for another day.
Yes, it is actually. We really need to talk more on this because it's becoming a problem. Well, still more on decision making day. I still have more decision making day from this paper. Our Supreme Court delivers judgment on local government autonomy today. You find the story on page 4. Minister confirms duty-free policy as federal government targets crash in food prices. Page 5. Governors panic as Tinubu meets labor over minimum wage. Page 5. Well, I said today is a decision-making day. 16 states failed to assess 55.7 billion naira UBEC funds. Page 5. So if you want to know why they failed, you need to grab the paper and read. CSOs orders Fourth Livestock Ministry as NRC resumes cattle transport by rail. Page 6. Strange illness kills 12 in Gombe community. Page 30. And the higher tariff worsens MDA's electricity backlog, threatens supply. Let's flip over to the paper and see if we have stories here. Yes, how poverty, travel costs keep spectators away from stadiums in Africa. Alright, let's move on to another paper.
Alright, our next paper of choice is Daily Trust. The leading story here says, bread beyond reach. Citizens lament. Writer says, bakeries shut down due to rising cost of production. Nigerians seek relatively cheaper foods, and government must act now. Master bakers. That story is on page 4. It's almost difficult to take bread now.
When they say Nigerians seek cheaper food, I don't know why it forced a laugh out of me, because I'm now wondering which food is actually the cheaper one, because the ones that were like the poor people's saving grace, like the gari, the bread, have become the expensive, the luxury food. So which is actually now the cheaper food?
Alright, let's move on. Below the masthead, NERC reels out new sanctions for discourse. That story is on page 20. Women ministers, reps in shouting match over alleged diversion of 1.5 billion naira. That story is on page 6. And since the shouting match, I think I know the winner already. Tinubu has been fenced off by forces on Lume. The story is on page 29. Beside the pictorial, thugs, residents clash in Rano over Sanusi's emissary. The story is on page 30. Borno government reintegrates 8,490 repentant Boko Haram members. That story is on page 3. Mercy spoke about this some time ago. Conflicting court orders. CJN vows to deal with errant judges. The story is on page 5. And below the pictorial, Samoa report. FG to await position of media ombudsman. The story is on page 6. This Samoa report is, that agreement, the alleged agreement is, personally, I think that agreement would do us a bad blow. So let's wait for the media ombudsman report. Probably the federal government will say something about it.
Yeah.
This is much we can take care.
Interesting stories there. So please endeavor to grab your papers and read and contribute towards some of these developments. You can take to your social media and write positively, constructive criticism, and then instead of just banters and antagonizing, remember we're all part and parcel of government. If this current administration fails, we all fail. And then the beauty of it all is the person at the helm of affair after probably 4-8 years move on. But then the implication of the failed policies live on with us, and then we are made to drag backward instead of moving forward. So you see why we as a people are more on the receiving end of any development or progress made by governments rather than even the person at the helm of affairs, which is why it's very important for all of us to ensure every government that is on board, that we all contributed, whether you like it or not, one way or the other, whether I voted or did not vote, but it's in power, we all make sure that government succeed and not serve as saboteurs or applauding when failure is being recorded. This is much we have on Daybreak Benue this morning. From our end, we sincerely appreciate you, our beautiful viewers, for staying on the other hand and being part of Daybreak Benue this morning. Benue Television News will come up at 9 a.m. My name is Mercy Upa.
I'm Stephen Abba. Do have a lovely day.
Welcome to the exciting world of Benue Television, where we give you an exclusive ride into the world of news, current affairs, and entertainment. Ready for a first stop? Ride with me. For Benue Television.
Our news and flagship program, Daybreak Benue, keeps you informed on events and happenings around the nation and the world.
We engage our guests on hot topics and beam searchlight on shady stories.
With millions of people watching Benue TV worldwide, we ensure that we bring you news that is accurate, timely, and dependable.
Our programs are entertaining and educative with high quality audio, leaving you with an amazing viewing experience.
Benue TV, a new dimension in broadcasting.
Welcome to the exciting world of Benue Television, where we give you an exclusive ride into the world of news, current affairs, and entertainment. Ready for a first stop? Ride with me. For Benue Television.
Our news and flagship program, Daybreak Benue, keeps you informed on events and happenings around the nation and the world.
We engage our guests on hot topics and beam searchlight on shady stories.
With millions of people watching Benue TV worldwide, we ensure that we bring you news that is accurate, timely, and dependable.
Our programs are entertaining and educative with high quality audio, leaving you with an amazing viewing experience.
Benue TV, a new dimension in broadcasting.
Welcome to the exciting world of Benue Television, where we give you an exclusive ride into the world of news, current affairs, and entertainment. Ready for our first stop? Ride with me. World of Benue Television.
Our news and flagship program, Daybreak Benue, keeps you informed on events and happenings around the nation and the world.
We engage our guests on hot topics and beam searchlight on shady stories.
With millions of people watching Benue TV worldwide, we ensure that we bring you news that is accurate, timely, and dependable.
Our programs are entertaining and educative with high quality audio, leaving you with an amazing viewing experience.
Benue TV, a new dimension in broadcasting.
Sante James, yes or no?